Hey everyone, my name is Debbie Happy Cohen. We're here for Worthiness Matters. And I just noticed that I'm whitewashed again. So I'm going to try to correct that as I begin day number 9 of Worthiness Matters. I'm the founder of JoyBased Living, White Balance. And then we're going to go, sorry about that, exposure. Isn't that better? Oh, miracles of good lighting. Yeah, this new Facebook Live thing, I still haven't figured out how to actually see myself in the video in advance to be able to there we go, to be able to correct things prior to video. So I'm still working out the kinks here. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so we're on day number 9. We have a list of questions for this 30-day series, and I'm going through the questions one by one, and they're about worthiness. One of our members sent them, and so they're really beautiful and they're very sincere. So today's question is today's question is, how do I get others to see my worth? How do I get others to see my worth? Now, what we're practicing during these videos is embodiment and emotional literacy. So, what I want you to do in this contemplation, this is a joy based spirituality workout. What I want you to do is, I'm going to say the question again: how do I get others to see my worth? I want you to feel what that feels like in your body. I don't want you to go to your mind. I want you to realize that a publicist is going to answer that question very differently than a psychologist. And a dolphin is going to answer that question very differently than a human being. How do I get others to see my worth? I want you to feel that question. I want you to feel that question. There's a mixture of feelings that come up inside of me with that question. And then we're going to put the question off to the side. I'm going to share a couple stories and we'll come back to it. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to approach these questions this way, because it gives you the opportunity to feel in your body, to practice embodiment, to get out of your mind and just listen to how your body responds. How do I get others to see my worth? While we're living in an age of social media and everybody's like grabbing for attention, how do I get others to see my worth? So I wanted to share with you something that I bought the other day. It's a piece of art. I consider it a piece of art. It is a piece of art. I found it. I saw it at Whole Foods in the gift card section, and I had to have it. I really wanted it. And I looked at the price and I was like, oh, it's $10. I'm not spending $10 on shiny French fries. And I talked myself out of it, right? And then I got home because I wasn't going to send it to anybody. I just liked it for myself. It just stood out to me. I just loved it. And shiny French fries. And I got home and I was like, oh man, I live in the country, so I'm like an hour away from Whole Foods. And so I was like, I really should have gotten the French fries, and I regretted not getting the French fries. And like a month and a half later, a couple of days ago, I was like, maybe they still have the French fries. And I went looking for the French fries, and there was one left, and I got it. And so that was really, really cool. So now I'm going to say the sentence again and see what comes to your mind. The question: how do I get others to see my worth? So if everybody had seen the worth of these French fries, they wouldn't have been there for me when I got back the next time to Whole Foods in northern Chattanooga. I think of a piece of art that I did. I had a few of my pieces of my paintings at Wildflower Cafe for a few years, and a bunch of them sold, and then a bunch of them didn't sell. And so they decorated the wall in the main room over there for a few years. Funny, I still hesitate calling myself an artist, right? I'm just noticing that on an embodied level, having this conversation with you. And So there was one point we took all the paintings out, and somebody I was working with in England wanted a painting of mine to have some of my art in her house because she wanted my energy there. And I said, well, I have these paintings that are left over from the restaurant. And there was one painting that I never understood. Like, I don't know why I loved it. It was like an apple cherry heart tree. And I just loved it. And there was, I had written in small writing under the tree, um, love is in the air. And she fell in love with it, and her husband loved it, and her boys loved it. Like, she was like, that's my painting, that's my painting. I don't even want to see the other ones. I was like, oh my God. And I realized why it hadn't sold to anybody else, because it was for her. It was meant for her, just like these French fries were meant for me. My shiny French fries. I love my shiny French fries. And then I found out that they came from one of my favorite stores that I got to know when I was living out in Oregon, called Papyrus. I used to go to their flagship store there in Ashland, and that's their logo, and it's a hummingbird. It's beautiful. And I was like, oh, but of course, it's Papyrus. So let me ask the question again. Let me tell you one more story. How do I get others to see my worth? How do I get others to see my worth? So I was watching a movie the other day. I highly recommend it. It's a classic. I recommend it to just like buy it and have it available whenever you want to boost. It's called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and it's with one of my favorite actors, Jimmy. I forgot his last name. Jimmy Stewart. I love Jimmy Stewart. Love Jimmy Stewart. So Mr. Smith goes to Washington. He's this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young adult who's got like all the youth of America behind him, because he stands for, going out in nature and being a good person. And like, he's got all these ideals, and someone who he deeply, deeply, deeply admires, I think is the senator in his state. They go out to Washington, and the project that Jimmy Stewart wants to do is going to infringe upon some bad business going out down in Washington, and they're going to throw him, Jimmy Stewart, under the bus. And so at one point, he's doing a filibuster for 24 hours, which means he's just talking, because you're allowed to legally do that at Congress, and all these stuff about politics that I learned in that movie. So he's filibustering, and he is exhausted. He is at his bottom. He looks like I found out later on, so to get a raspy voice, they put a mercury on his, on his tonsils, which wasn't very good for him. Now we know, but it made him have a raspy voice. Little factoids at Worthiness Matters. Anyway, he's like surrounded by all these hateful letters that people have just sent in due to the smear campaign on him that happened overnight, and just surrounded by these baskets of nasty letters about what a horrible person he is. And he is about to fall down because he's just seeing injustice. He's so upset. And he looks up, and the man who is leading the room, I don't remember if it's the president or if it's somebody else. Anyway, it's the person presiding in this room. This whole time, he's been kind of chuckling under his breath, just watching the antics of the whole room, and, following procedure to the best of his ability. And Jimmy Stewart looks up at him just with desperation. And this man, who is the authority figure in the room, looks down at him with a twinkle in his eye, non-verbally letting him know. He's kind of like this. He's looking at him. And he's non-verbally letting him know, I'm on your side. You got this. He's looking at him right in the eye. And that moment, I grabbed it, because one of the things that we've been working on in JoyBased Living is how to become your own healthy authority in your own mind, in a way that you can release the voices of culture that no longer serve you. So how do you take ownership? So I've talked about cape, collar, crown, right? So here, this was a a person in authority. So I took that moment for myself, and I was like, that is the attitude and the energy and the presence of my ideal inner authority toward myself. So I'm going to say this question again because this is for you. How do I get others to see my worth? You get others to see your worth by taking the risk to be yourself, and then finding a subculture of wellness, a community where you feel belongingness, where people look at you for the authentic self that you're showing up with. And the look in their eyes looks like they're watering a flower because you're looking at them in their eyes like you're watering a flower, and you're seeing each other authentically. Now, for some people, that might mean you need to get help first, get professional help. Sit one on one with someone who's going to look at you with eyes of kindness, and not just eyes of kindness, but eyes that let you know, I see you. And one of the things that's the hardest about healing invisible trauma, meaning trauma it was just verbal, it was just nonverbal, but if you live in a community where everybody either abandons you or gives you looks of disdain or turns away when you're in pain, you know, but nobody's ever hit you or nobody's ever like physically abused you in any way, you kind of think that you're crazy. You're like, it must be me. That because we're human. That's what we do. We're like, okay. The worst punishment the Chinese used to give to somebody in their family was ghosting them, abandoning them emotionally, like pretending that they don't exist. That is the worst punishment to give another human being. So when you're one of the hardest things about working with someone who is feeling deep pain, of emotional trauma, but didn't have like the physical to go with it, is meeting that person at depth, at the level of depth of their pain, which I consider the deepest gold mine, but it's so deep that there are chemical fumes and somebody needs to come in and open the air, because they're getting very little oxygen down there. So open the hole even just a little bit, and then the person starts getting some oxygen. But the key is to feel seen at a level of depth by someone who's going to look at you with kindness and with validation and appreciation for who you are as a human being. And that is the beginning of the healing process. When a person goes to get one-on-one help with a professional and they're not seen at that level of depth, and when they do show that level of depth, and they're either looked at with disdain or with confusion or with uh, something other than validation, they will make themselves wrong yet again and create more invalidation in their own system and feel worse than before. Then the person who can really help them has to go even deeper. It's painful and it's hard. I'm going to ask this question again because I want to answer this in a number of ways. I just gave you the hardest, deepest answer. How do I get others to see my worth? You get others to see your worth by taking the risk to let others see you. And for some people, that might be getting professional help. I did for a long time. I went to different people. What else? What else can you do to others to see my worth? If you're a piece of art and you've been in the attic or in the basement for a long time, you take yourself out and you dust yourself off. When I first started JoyBased Living, I wanted other people to see my worth, and I wanted to see other people in their true, authentic worth. And I wanted a subculture of wellness for myself, and I created all these structures at JoyBased Living to be able to have that for myself. In the same way that Bill W. started Alcoholics Anonymous, so that people could see each other for who they are and feel accepted for who they are, even in the trenches of alcoholism. I was like, I don't think you should need to have alcoholism in order to have that, but let's see And I don't think you need to have a psychologist in order to have that, but I don't want to have to go out just to have a hobby in order to try to connect with people, because you can connect with people through bike riding or through drinking or through, and I mean that in a happy, going to bars or whatever. You can connect with people through art, through all kinds of hobbies. But I wanted to connect with people at an authentic level where people would not just see me and me see them, but that they would see each other at a level of authenticity, because that to me is the healthy soil of the best relationships that can be created in the world. That is the healthy soil for deep connection, and it is based on belongingness. And belongingness comes from embodiment and emotional literacy and authenticity. So I'm going to say the question again. How do I get others to see my worth? You take the risk of showing up as yourself. You take the risk for sharing what you feel. You take the risk of sharing what you need, which you can only do once you know what you really feel. And you take the risk of sharing what you want, which you can only do when you have enough sense of self-worth. But I want to make something really clear. I'm going to say one more thing and then we'll come to a close. One of the tricky parts of talking about worthiness is that it brings up feelings of unworthiness. And in our very action-oriented society, there can be a temptation to just want to fix it, which means fix yourself, get worthy. And that is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Don't do that. Make peace with where you are. We have people in JoyBased Living, some of them have experienced some profound losses in the last few years, and some of them have just felt really sad for a very long time. And one of the hardest practices sometimes is to just let them be okay with, let them be, to be okay with where they are without trying to fix it. And that if they want help and they want to feel better, that to be there for them. But to make peace with where you are is the kindest thing you could ever do for yourself. Imagine if you're like in a canoe and you're not making peace with where you are. Maybe you're lost somewhere and you're in a canoe and you start shaking the boat. That's not going to help you get where you want to go. It's not going to help you at all if you start shaking the boat. When you're not at peace with where you are, you can't even see straight. So make peace with where you are, wherever that is on the emotional ladder. Where's my emotional ladder? Wherever you are on the emotional ladder, make peace with where you are. And then from there, you'll start practicing seeing your own worth. When you make peace with where you are, that is a practice of recognizing your own worth. So how do I get others to see my worth? By recognizing it yourself. And if you need help to recognize it yourself, getting help, and then letting it shine. I've never seen a baby, who was afraid to express their worth. Expressing our worth is what we're here to do. It's what makes us light up, and it's what inspires other people who are around us to let themselves light up too. So, appreciate you for being here with me on this journey. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me at YouTube. And if you want to be part of the conversation while I'm here talking in the live stream, subscribe at Patreon. Patreon.com/JoyBased Living. Thank you, JoyBased Living community. Love you. Bye for now.